All right, listeners, I'm thrilled to welcome you to another episode of the Roanoke Presents from Print podcast. I know how much you love diving into the best outdoor experiences, local adventures, and hidden gems in our region. So today, we're excited to shine a light on Rockbridge County, Lexington, and Buena Vista, destinations that are perfect for outdoor enthusiasts of all levels. Especially important for me. I'm not someone who gets outside often, but when I do, I need it to be like a level 1, so it'll be great. But whether you're an experienced adventurer or just starting to explore the great outdoors, our episode today will be packed with tips, insights, and must-visit spots in the area. I'm joined by two fantastic guests who know this region inside and out. James Dick, Director of Outdoor Education at Washington and Lee University, and Chuck Smith, Lexington City Council and outdoors enthusiast. They're here to give us the inside scoop on the best outdoor activities, trails, and experiences that make Rockbridge County so very special. So grab your hiking boots, your kayak paddle, or just settle in and dream up your next outdoor adventure getaway as we share great spots for you to get outside and explore. Gentlemen, welcome so much to the show. We appreciate you having here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. Thanks. So let's start with a little bit about you two. Tell me about, are you from the area? You seem pretty familiar with it based on what we talked about before we started recording.
I moved to the area in 1991 to take a job with Westvaco up in Covington, and then I walked away from that and started a wine shop downtown in Lexington. And as a result, I've been here for now 34 years. And when I first got here, a lot of what I did, because I didn't know many people, was just drive around Rockbridge County and explore it. And the more I explored, the more I got to appreciate the recreation and natural beauty that Rockbridge County has.
Sounds like getting lost was the perfect way to explore your new area.
Good. That's a good way to call it, yeah.
And how about you?
22 years ago, I moved my family from New Mexico to take a job at W&L.
Culture shock?
And big culture shock, yeah. You said Buena Vista, which is how I say it, but up there they say Buena Vista.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a bad
flinched on the
Virginian.
take. I'm sorry.
Bad Virginian.
That's
Ooh.
okay. I just say
Buena.
BV because it's hard for me
That's
to
what I'm going to do
mess
from
that
now on. Whoops. Okay. I swear I'm a Virginia native too. All right. Anyway, but please.
Years ago I moved here and run the outdoor program at a university, and I needed to be the reference point of where to go and what to do. So the first 2 years I hit a lot of places, and 20 years later, it seems like we know all of them now, but we're still discovering little nooks and crannies, which is fun.
I love that. So because the region it's not super big, I really love the space and the amenities that you have because it's not so big that you feel like you're going to get lost. However, I love that you're still kind of discovering new things even after having lived there for so long. And so let's talk about Rockbridge Outdoors and its mission. I think this is really interesting when I was looking up some information before our interview and learning about what it is that you do.
Sure. Well, a bunch of us got together years and years ago to try to get more people to come to Rockbridge honestly, to spend money in our community based on outdoor recreation that isn't involving hunting or horses. We have those industries covered really well.
Right.
We still want people to come to do those two activities, but there's more than just those two things.
Yeah. Our mission is to help improve and promote the natural assets that we have in Rockbridge County for recreation and just visiting in general. So the more we improve those things that we have for everybody else that's outside the region, we're just making things better for the people
of course.
that already live there.
Yeah, and I love that because you're really building community, you're strengthening it. I'm sure that they all really appreciate what you do because it does bring in people who are there also in general, not just for horses, but for outdoors as well. So I think that's terrific. And so let's talk about Rockbridge County, Lexington, and BV. That's what I'm going to say from now on. They're pretty unique destinations for outdoor rec, but I'm curious about why you feel that way. What makes you feel so strongly that this is the place you got to visit?
Before we started recording, we were talking about the level of activity, right? Rockbridge County has beginner to moderate in spades. We have phenomenally we have great trails that are family friendly, beginners, intermediates. If you're looking for world-class rock climbing, caving, fishing, hiking, there are other places, but if you're looking for a standard high quality. Now I seem like I'm downplaying it.
No, build it up.
It's a real easy place to get your feet wet without having to go in the deep end right away.
I think that's really important too, because I like being outside, but I'm more of a walker or a slow hiker. But I love that a friend who really wants to go, rock climbing or caving sounds really mysterious and wonderful. Yeah. But that's pretty exciting that anybody can go up there and find something for them.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we we're in Roanoke now, and we have McAfee's Knob, which is McAfee's Knob, either way, right? Both ways, right?
Whoever it is.
It's a phenomenal, iconic landmark, and it's overrun with people. I mean, you all are having to build bridges and parking lots and things like that. So if you're looking for something as iconic as that, on the drive down here, we were talking about let's share all the wonderful outdoor stuff without telling them all the hidden gems.
I know. We're going to get to that without giving all the hidden gems because you got to go discover them for yourself, obviously.
Right.
But I love that. And I also love, so you're talking about driving down. You made this drive in no time. I myself have been to Lexington a few times, and you can get there in absolutely no time at all.
Right.
I'm there in like 45 minutes.
It's an easy day trip.
Yes.
Or overnight.
Yeah, long weekend. But I love the quick day trip. So no matter what your plans are, you're able to make time for that. I mean, I think that's great. And so this one's kind of a twofold question because you're thinking about planning an ideal day full of outdoor activities. But for someone who maybe it's their first visit to Rockbridge County, where are you recommending that they visit? And maybe you're looking at different skill levels. I don't know.
Sure.
I point right to Natural Bridge State Park.
I mean, can't miss.
It's one of the best, if not the best, natural assets that we have in Rockbridge County.
I'm going to go to the best.
Hence the name of the county, right?
It's amazing.
There are trails there. There's a creek there. We have a kids fishing day in April coming up.
Cute.
That's a great promotional piece for the park. Whenever I go there, I'm on the Friends of Natural Bridge State Park organization involved with that. Whenever I visit the park, I'm always meeting people from all over the state. A lot of folks from Tidewater will come over because it's so crowded over there. Let's go to the mountains. So between the trails and that fantastic geologic feature we have as Natural Bridge, every time I go, it still just blows me away.
And you've been there, probably maybe 100 times. Every time there's something new to spot.
Yeah, so that's the first thing that I go to.
Is it true that there's a little historical aspect in the bridge?
Multiple, yeah.
Well, we just celebrated the 250th anniversary of Thomas Jefferson buying Natural Bridge from the king, whoever it was at the time.
George.
Sure.
Yeah, one of them. So that gives you also a sense of history that Natural Bridge has for the area, not only geologically but historically.
And is there a signature somewhere in the rocks? I think that's like a little. Is it real? Like, is that real?
Yeah, you can see it.
It's not some
there are multiple
legend.
signatures.
George Washington might have his initials up on. Yeah,
and it's a bit of a scramble. It's not like he was able to stand on lower elevations. It was scrambled up.
I remember like when we were walking through, then everyone's just staring up at it. And you're like, what are they staring? Oh my God, is that like? And it was kind of amazing. And like, is that a legend or is that? I mean, the fact that's real. Like, it's amazing.
Two new things with Natural Bridge State Park, which are we've got the bridge. Everybody knows the bridge. It's iconic. Great gift center or gift shop, etc. Ranger-led programs, but it's a International Dark Skies designation now, which the park comes alive at night. Phenomenal outlook on the Skyline Trail. My wife Julie said, "Don't give too many tips away," right? But that's a good one, right?
Such a good one.
And it's got a wonderful view of the sky, and there's also a disc golf trail as well. We've put in 18 holes. It's a trail on a little used part of the park. You can walk, you can run, and you can play disc golf. So.
I think one of the things I loved most about it. So we talked about this a little bit before we got started, but just right sort of. After COVID was sort of opening up, my husband and I, we went to Lexington. We were like, we got to get away for like 10 minutes. And of course, we spent an amazing long weekend there. And the first place we went to was Natural Bridge. Sure. And it was kind of amazing, both because we live in the city, right? So we don't see a whole lot of stars just because of all the lights and stuff. And so I want to go back now so bad to do that part. But it was so charming, and it was spacious, right? You didn't feel kind of crowded in by a bunch of people trying to hike the same trail all at once for that iconic view, right? You were still getting that view, but there was plenty of space and room, and you just kind of felt like children can run up and down and play, or your dogs can go with you. It was really incredible. We did take our dog with us. He was not much on the water, but he liked everything else, I think. Sure. But it was great. So again, so they've gone to Natural Bridge. That's their first stop. First and foremost, got to go. Where are they going after that in their first day there?
I mean, one of the crown jewels of outdoor Virginia is Goshen Pass.
Okay.
And that's a drive. You can drive through it, you can stop and you can fish, you can paddle, you can hike. It's just an incredible geologic feature. It's the headwaters of the Maury River, which is a river that I think technically it's the only river in the U.S. that starts and stops in one county. It's a really neat river, but Goshen Pass would definitely be on that itinerary with a picnic lunch at the wayside, the Royster Lyle wayside. If you want to walk or bike ride, hit the Chessie Trail. It's a Railster Trail, converted Railster Trail from BV to Lexington. It's 6 miles long. You can start either end or in the middle. Lake Robertson is a wonderful small lake and recreation area for fishing, paddling, hiking.
You really got it all.
Well,
whether your interest is water or ground, you really do have a little bit of everything, which is exciting.
Well, in case of the improvements that some of the owners of the trail system have made regarding the Chessie Trail, because it goes through open pasture, the gates used to you would have to climb over. So if you had a bike,
you had to breaking the law.
put your bike over the gate to continue on the trail.
Yeah.
It used to be an old rail bed, C&O rail bed. But now they've installed gates that you can walk around or even open up, so you don't have to deal with trying to. It's made it much more friendly and accessible to everybody,
sure.
Bikers, hikers, and it's very level. So it's I don't know if it's ADA certified, but it's pretty easy to get around on.
Yeah, and 6 miles doesn't sound too intimidating, right? Like
right.
that doesn't sound too scary.
Right.
no matter how you're walking it or biking it. And so, you're thinking about, I'd like to talk just a little bit. I know we're talking about outdoors, but if you're going to send somebody for a great meal or just going downtown, like I know you have some there's just the cutest shops and just great restaurants. Really great spots. And I'm curious about where you might recommend that they go. I don't know if you want to single anybody out or shout out to everybody that you want to give a shout out to.
I can. So the Rockbridge Outdoors is separated into subcommittees, and I'm on the trails and rivers and trails committee. There's the signs committee and the marketing committee. I can hear our marketing folks list them all.
How much time do you have?
Yeah. I think we have a good run of restaurants, from breakfasts, pastries and coffee shops, plenty of those. We've got great lunches in BV and Lexington. We've got plenty of dinner choices. And of course, we've got a brewery. We've got a couple breweries in town. Heliotrope is in town. We've got Devil's Backbone just outside of town.
Yeah. Great Valley.
Great Valley Brewery is by Natural Bridge Station, and the Pink Cadillac Restaurant. So there's a lot of kind of local favorites that spread the wealth, I guess.
Yeah. Well, just after you've had a hard day outdoors in the sun, having a great time, it's time for a great meal or a good local beer. I think that's really important to know. So that's great advice. And so let's go back to, you mentioned family friendly, me being not new to outdoors, but sort of low level stress, I will say. Let's talk about family friendly trails, beginner level options that the visitors should know about. I know we touched a little bit on it, but for somebody like me who's not quite sure where to go, where would you recommend I try?
Well, I'd say for families, the Chessie is that's an easy mark.
Great.
Last year, we instituted or helped institute a new program called Track Trails, which is geared towards younger kids to keep them engaged and involved with the trail experience. By you get a card that helps raise some awareness, or where do I look for what on the trail, and once the kids can check off.
Oh, it's a scavenger hunt.
That's awesome. They can check off that they've done that trail, and you get so many trails in your thing, and you get some kind of prize.
Yeah, it's based off of like a junior ranger program within the national park system. It's funded and I think supported by the national park system.
But I love that it's a tangible way for you to see all the work that you've put in and all the activities that you've enjoyed too. Yeah. So do you have that for adults or like? Not well. I guess
maybe the beer is the reward after the.
Speaking of scavenger hunt, we should talk about Gene's effort early on. So geocaching is a big thing now, right?
And for me and listeners who don't know, please explain geocaching, because I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar enough to know what it would be.
Oh, I can nerd out on exactly what it. So geocaching is a digital form of an old activity way hundreds of years ago called letterboxing, where there were boxes hidden around in Scotland and England, and you'd find based on clues, you'd find the box, and it was a special stamp of your family. And so I would put a little stamp in my box, and then I could brag about it at dinner parties.
Cool.
And so geocaching is the modern equivalent with GPS locations. It's urban, it's rural, it's all across the world. And early on, one of our great friends, Jean, she helped get Rockbridge on the map with the Gems of Rockbridge, I think it was called, the Gems of Rockbridge Trail. It's geocaching. But she was way ahead of the curve. I mean, 10 years before geocaching really kind of peaked. So there are geocaching locations in and around the town, in the county. So that's one thing that
I love that, though. Like, that's, I mean, like you said, it's sort of like a scavenger hunt, but like, what a great way to do that in a natural environment, and be able to see other things while you're doing it. You're not just making a beeline, you're enjoying nature while you get to go find it. That's super fun.
As we're talking, I'm thinking of all the places that your family could go. In BV, Glenmorey Park, it's a beautiful,
you got a track trail there.
There's a track trail there as well. So there's a what seems in Rockbridge, I think what we have in Rockbridge County is it's homegrown. It's a bunch of us getting together and continually working on improving the trails and access, and adding track trails and adding signage, and working with land managers. We have wonderful relationships with the DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, and Forest Service, and all the city managers and government officials involved in the county. And we're making small improvements, but you look back at it, and it's like, oh, we have a trail map now for Glenmorey Park trails. It's not just the pool and the Fiddlers Convention at the bottom, which are both wonderful, but there's also other things. Brushy Hills is 10 minutes outside of town. Phenomenal trail. You could, trail system that you could bike, hike, slow, quiet bird watch Sunday morning.
They have a new tree trail that has signage that identifies all the trees along the trail.
I love that.
We have Woods Creek Trail that goes right through. It's about a 3-mile point-to-point long trail right inside town. So it's somewhat difficult to answer your question, but it's almost like a flow chart. When people ask, hey, I want to go for a hike, I say, okay, do you want a view or do you want water? What season? How far is too far of a drive? And then you can kind of flow chart down. Is your family, have they ever kayaked? Have they ever paddled? If they have, okay, great. If we want flat water, let's go to Lake Robertson. There's beaver back, which the park managers don't want, but there's turtles and there's fish. You want a little bit more excitement? Do a small run on the Maury River with Class 1 rapids, which are riffles. It's not whitewater. If you would like a little whitewater, do this other section, and you'll get splashed, and it'll be fun, but it's not life-threatening.
Yeah, right? I want to float. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I love that. And you were talking about all these people that you work with, and everybody who has put in such effort over so many years. Did you ever think when you started that this would be what it is, 10 years from now or whenever that was?
I think as more people gain an understanding and an appreciation of what we have in Rockbridge County and want to make those things that much better than they are for all the right reasons, because as recreation, as becomes a greater and higher decision maker of where you're going to go and what you're going to do. Well, what are we going to do this weekend? Well, let's go to, somewhere. It's like, well, what are we going to do there? I don't know. Or we go to Lexington and Rockbridge and Buena Vista, and know ahead of time, and even know more as we explore it, all the different opportunities and experiences that those from without the region can experience when they do come.
Well, you're not going to be bored, that's for sure.
So we as a community have, I think, in a lot of ways, really embraced that philosophy and messaging to our neighbors in the valley.
Well, and I think that's important too. Again, we're focusing on Rockbridge and BV and Lexington, but to think about Roanoke obviously has a huge outdoor scene, and we are neighbors, and we do rely and depend on each other and suggest and recommend. And so I think it's great that we are able to say, well, if you've already hiked McAfee's Knob and you've been to Carvin's Cove and all those, here's this great spot, 45 minutes down the street. Like, it's really not far at all. We can make that jump in less than an hour, and be where we need to go. So I think that's really important to know that you've mentioned people coming from all over the state, but also from all over the country. We've got people, you go to a Reddit thread from people from Denver, and they're like, I can't wait to go to Roanoke or to Lexington, this area, because not only is it, affordable to be there, but it's just as exciting as anywhere else in the world that I could be in. So I think that's really amazing.
I think even what I think most happy about working with Rockbridge Outdoors is the us versus them mentality. I'm a citizen, right? I'm a taxpayer. I'm a user of the recreation resource, right? And them, they don't keep up the trails. They don't have signage. That it's really gotten rid of all those walls. Wait, it's an us. And I can help, and I can contribute, and I can get more people. And the land managers, they're overworked, they're underfunded, and they need us. So it's been, speaking of Rockbridge Outdoors specifically, it's been really fun to get to. I mean, we know each other now. Now it's like we're texting rather than having formal board meetings where call to order, Robert's Rules of Orders, and a very us versus them mentality. No, we're all in it together, and I feel like when Glen Maury Park has risen up a little bit. The city of BV is putting more effort into recreation. Oh, Lexington is. Our town in Goshen, the town of Goshen, is now seeing recreation as, that's a viable option to get people to come and see. And sure, I mean, the bottom line is hopefully contribute to the local economy, right? I mean, there's a bottom line as well. But people who live in and around Goshen, they deserve good recreation.
Absolutely.
They shouldn't have to drive down to the Greenway, the belt, here, right? Along Tinker Creek or whatever, right? So it's been quite enjoyable to be a part of.
Well, it sounds like it really strengthens your community because, again, you're not just coworkers and colleagues. You're friends and you're some family, and trying to make things work because you care about the area so much, and not just because you're trying to boost the economy, even though that is a subset of it, for sure.
One of the steps we've made in those efforts are to put QR codes on trailheads. So you can scan the code, it pulls up the trailhead, pulls up a trail description, and then while you're here, try this or this or this or this.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Here's some nearby businesses. Here are some other outdoor recreational opportunities that you can take advantage of after you finish this one.
Way more personalized than AI.
That's right. And it was actually fun. We all went out together as groups and we installed the little signs and some came back.
I love that, though. Like the camaraderie between you, because again, an organization is only as strong as its members, right? And so I think that you guys working together and being excited about it and being passionate about not just what it is that you're doing, but what you're doing for others is really memorable and amazing, and what makes it all the difference, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go back to our outdoor adventures, because we got real emotional and excited there, because I can't help it. But talking about, we've talked about hiking a little bit, and we've talked a little bit about paddling and all that, but let's talk about all the activities, because again, you mentioned caving and geocaching and all these little subsets that I didn't know you could go caving anywhere locally, honestly. So maybe not that specifically, but tell us more about what you're going to be able to do there, no matter your interest or skill level, of course.
Oh, boy. I mean, it's biking, road biking, trail biking, gravel biking,
Rock River ride, Rock River ride and hike, anything in, sorry to cut you off.
No. That covers all. I mean, easy hikes, hard hikes, short hikes, long hikes, hikes with great views, hikes with river views, biking all over the county.
Sure. Warm water fishing, colder water trout streams. We have fantastic access to the James River, which technically most of the James River is not in Rockbridge County. This is where it gets kind of fun. Yeah. North Mountain is the border of our county, right? And just over North Mountain is Douthit State Park, which is a phenomenal. In Clifton Forge, outside of Covington, there's the Jackson River Trail. So it's, as we improve Rockbridge County recreation, we also are trying to improve others.
Right. I think that's really important too, the ripple effect of what you're doing. It impacts everybody in the region, whether they realize it or not at the time, for sure. And I think what's interesting is, so it's not just that, where can I go hiking? It's, well, what do you want to do? What kind of view do you want?
Right.
What scenery are you going to think about? Do you have your dog or your kids with you or whatever?
Right.
And the fact that you can check every box that we're asking about is really important.
And what season? I mean, there, in July and August, to be honest with you, I don't hike a whole lot in July and August because the views aren't as good. There are more people, there are more bugs, it's hotter, humid, et cetera, right? But those hikes in November and January are phenomenal.
And after that, when the leaves are down, you can see
Sure.
through the trees instead of at the trees.
That's so funny that you say that, because a lot of people I think, well, there's no leaves, so there's nothing to see. It's like, well, actually, you can see better than ever. Like,
Right.
you can see everything as far as your eye can see. So that's pretty cool.
Right. And we've not mentioned the fact that the Blue Ridge Parkway is bordering our county as well. So
Right.
That's a big player as well.
Yeah, I just think that's just so terrific. And I think in July and August, could I go caving to escape some of that heat, I guess?
Sure.
I don't know why I'm so obsessed with this caving thing.
Which is interesting. It's always 55 degrees underground.
Oh.
Right now or in July. So
Okay.
it's actually sometimes warmer underground.
No kidding. Yeah, I should go like this week, like with the threat of snow coming. So again, you guys have been so familiar with the area, and you're really creating experiences for people based on your own personal experiences. So I was wondering about your own personal favorite locations or even activities that you yourself would take with your family and friends or people visiting from out of town.
Well, from out of town, we always go to Natural Bridge State Park.
Let's just go ahead and assume always the number one. Goes without saying.
Yeah. For us, we like have a rotation of trails, and it's like, well, we haven't done that one for a while, and you sort of forget a lot of the reason why you liked it so much in the first place until you do it again, and like, oh yeah, we did House Mountain last fall, and it didn't turn out. It was started off as a, hey, let's go to the saddle,
right.
And then it turned into, well, let's keep going, and we walked all the way along.
Which is
Ridge
a long, hard
I
hike.
don't want to hang out with you if you're going to drag me.
So that's like an 8.5 mile round trip.
Oh, that's pretty lengthy,
hike.
yeah.
But it brought back a lot of memories of doing it the first time and seeing again, like, oh wow, this is one of the best hikes in the county, and also one of the best views in the county. It's outstanding, and
you're probably not fighting a whole bunch of other people for that view too.
Not so much.
I
I would describe that as parts of it are strenuous. So it's not for a beginner, but it's not at a you're going to need a helmet and ropes.
I don't want to go on a hike and need a helmet. I'm probably good there.
and discovering hikes that we haven't done yet, that you hear about or pull up online through All Trails or Hiking Upward or any of those other sites that promote local hiking trails, that, oh, I've never heard of that one, let's go check it out. And you discover something that was under your nose the whole time, but never explored because it hadn't been on the radar yet.
You haven't been on though in your area.
There's always one.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's pretty exciting.
It is.
That there's always something new to discover.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
I think if the guests were coming in the summer, any of the warmer months, it would be, let's get on the river. Mm-hmm. And the Maury River is accessible. It's close. In the evening, 7 or 8 o'clock, it's light enough. It's warm. It's nice. It's quiet. It's peaceful. If you got on in the morning, it was sunrise, and it's we paddleboard at 6 a.m. some days, and just getting on the river in whatever mode, a canoe, a paddleboard, a kayak, a small john boat. If you're fishing, birding, floating, swimming, that's what I would do.
Yeah. Well, and so we did even all the activities you have. We didn't. I know you mentioned it, but bird watching. I love that you can go just look at turtles and frogs and just the nature that is living there. I mean, I think that's not just for little kids. That's for big kids too. Sure. I mean,
we have bald eagles on the Maury.
Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I said we have bald eagles on the Maury. I know, right? You see me like, what the? Oh my gosh, it's a bald eagle. I had no idea.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Brushy Hills has tons of birds for birders. There's a group, Friends of Brushy Hills, that does bird watching activities and seminars. We've lots of assets that don't make it on my radar because I'm not a big birder. But
but still, that's
when
amazing.
you see like, there's a pileated woodpecker, you're like, good God, those things are huge.
All the naturalist groups that we have as well, and so in being in so there's leisure, there's recreation, there's exercise, and so. Those are all distinct and different, and all are important. Mm-hmm. And so, we're really pitching Rockbridge County. We're really doing well here, Chuck. This is great.
I can't wait to go.
So, but they're all, we have something for any of that. You want to leisurely float without an agenda down the Maury River. where it's going to take 3 hours or 5 hours, you don't care. We have that. If like this week, the water is way up. People are coming from Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New York, the coast, all the Carolinas to whitewater kayak Goshen Pass because we have class 3s, 4s, and debatable class 5 whitewater.
Intense.
Class 5 is the upper limit.
Yeah.
And most of us would look at that river and say, there's no way we're going to be on the water. But people are driving 2 days to paddle it because it's by far the best whitewater in the state when the water is up. So we actually have the whole range, and it's not that we're trying to oversell it or make it more than it is. We actually cover quite a bit of it very well.
I mean, I think that's, like you said, people from New York are driving down to. I don't think they're whitewater rafting in New York City. Like that's pretty incredible that they're making this trip just for this area. I mean, that's really something. And so we've talked a little bit about your personal favorite locations. Again, not going to mention Natural Bridge because that's just already done deal. But talking about Rockbridge Outdoors, let's go back to what you're doing and what you're doing for your community. Thinking about why do you feel that it has been so successful, and what we've already talked about tells me immediately it's been successful. Just looking at, let's say, a decade of what the work that you all have done to change and enhance and strengthen. But what do you feel has been so wonderful? Maybe besides the people, because I know that's always going to be the first answer.
The first answer is yes, we're seeing more people. When Julie and I go out and hike or bike or whatever, we see people we normally don't see. And once in a while we'll ask them. And they've heard about it through Rockbridge Outdoors, which is great. But it's better to me to see locals. I've hiked or run or whatever this particular location for forever, and I've never seen my neighbor, and now I see my neighbor. It's like, what took you so long? Well, I've heard about that. I saw the sticker.
Yeah.
We have a logo now, and right. So, and so that says, oh, we're actually doing something, and it's for us, which is nice.
I love that.
And it becomes a bigger part of employment choices, right? As recreation and quality of life become a higher decision maker in where I want to work or where I want to live, the more we can do to improve what we have, again, for the people that already live there, is when folks that are looking to work at W&L or VMI or hospitals or wherever, that has risen to a higher level of a factor in determining where those folks are going to move. And that in itself generates a backfill of interest and participation that help. It creates a positive loop feedback. Where you get the people that move here that enjoy our assets and want to make them better and improve on them. Then that just starts to backfill more from other folks that want to live and work in Rockbridge.
Right. So real quick, I'm going to deviate from the outdoors for just a second. We're going to go back to, for the things that you're going to take your friends and family and visitors to that is not necessarily outdoors, but it's something just really iconic about the area. So, for example, we were talking, my husband and I, when we visited Lexington, we walked across the campuses of both the schools up there. And again, funny because VMI and it was, crossing that little street was so like, oh, these are two really different campuses, even though they're literally facing each other. But it was a beautiful day. There's not a lot of people out. It was a summer, so there's not a lot of students. And it was just such a perfect opportunity to just leisurely stroll. And I would take anybody back there in a heartbeat just to walk the campuses, just because it was so, I don't know. It was just such a lovely afternoon. I just look back on that so fondly. But if you're going to take somebody around the area that wasn't necessarily a hiking trail or a path or the Natural State Bridge.
I almost would say and we have shows almost not every week, but at least every 2 weeks. We do have the Virginia Horse Center. And so a lot of our effort is to try to get hiking and fishing and, biking, things like that. But Virginia Horse Center is phenomenal. Just driving to the parking lot, for the view alone is worth going, let alone seeing all the horses in the shows. So not to plug it too much, but that would be that's not it's kind of an outdoorsy thing, but not really. But it's a wonderful resource. I would definitely. You're not
going to find that just everywhere, right? Anywhere else.
Right.
Also, full disclosure, I'm on the Lime Kiln Theater Board, and the last 10 years since before COVID, we went a year dark during COVID, but we've now been 10 years open after we had a very significant transition away from theater production. Now we're more of a music venue. And we have Grammy-nominated, Grammy-winning bluegrass foundation award-winning musicians that come through Rockbridge and play Limekiln Theater. It's a great organization to be part of. Check out we'll have our season announce in March. Local groups down the road in Russell County, 49 Winchester, have played, now 3 or 4 times.
Sure. It's an outdoor setting. It's the site of an old lime kiln. So we've got, it's quaint and kind of intimate. It's phenomenal.
Sierra Farrell, who won 3 Grammys this year, she played 3 years ago. So we have these. Zach Top opened for Dan Tominski 2 years ago. Now he's untouchable. Now he's untouchable. So that it's a great outdoor recreational and musical opportunity to take advantage of in Rockbridge, to see artists that you will 5 years from now be able to say, oh yeah, I saw them at Limekiln
before
Theater,
they were big, before
they
won their Grammys. I think that's amazing. So you've got outdoors, you've got arts and culture, you've got great music. I mean, that's really something.
I mean, I see the sign. Because I'm more outdoor focused, I kind of ignore some of it. But there's downtown Lexington and Main Street, BV, and there's a Main Street initiative in Virginia, right? And I mean, just walking around.
I love it.
Shopping and looking at the museums, and I mean, there's quite a bit to do.
And I know it's silly. Younger listeners might not know what Mayberry is, but there is such a wonderful, tight, close knit community when it comes to a Main Street vibe, right? And thinking about the people that help each other and work side by side every day, that welcome people from out of town, but also the locals that know them, and you're supporting your friends and neighbors is what you're doing. You're literally, by going in those shops, you're helping their kids go to t-ball and dance and all that stuff. And I think that's really critically important to remember that the community is what makes it so special.
Sure.
I think that's fantastic.
Sure. As a former downtown business owner, I
exactly
preach it.
Yeah. All day, every day.
You know what I'm realizing is how can we tell you later what we forgot to say?
I know, right?
As soon as we walk out.
Someone will remind us at some point. You forgot to talk about.
Well, when I get an email at 2 a.m., I'll know what happened there. Okay, so we've talked about Main Street vibes, talked about great arts and culture opportunities. So we'll go back to outdoors. Okay. We'll go back. But in thinking about maybe some of your insider tips you've shared, experiencing your outdoors, maybe best times of year, maybe hidden gems, without giving away too many hidden gems, because I want to go there and have it all to myself. What do you think? Where are you sending people, or what sort of tips and experiences would you offer?
A drive on the Blue Ridge Parkway is a must.
Yeah.
An evening picnic, grab dinner to go, take a blanket. I mean, when was the last time you did a picnic blanket, right? The blanket makes a difference, right? And drive up and pick either north or south. You can't go wrong. Find a pullout. And have a nice picnic. Yeah. The Parkway was designed for vehicles and to stop and look, not to hike, not to bike, none of that. It's just to look as you're driving your motor vehicle. Right. So take advantage of it. It was designed really well, and the views are incredible. Thunder Ridge is slightly out. That's out of our county, right? Thunder Ridge, it's past the J. But there's a ton of them that are phenomenal, right? So that's one thing I would. And I
love that you're. Maybe it's subtle, maybe it's not, but you're encouraging people to get off your phone and just sit and breathe and just take it in. I think that's really important now more than ever, for us to stop doom scrolling. And
you bet.
Again, maybe nature isn't necessarily your thing, but it doesn't have to be in the woods, right? You can go on the Parkway and have a lovely picnic and just enjoy what's in front of you.
Go on to the DWR website, which it used to be VDGIF, right? The Game and Inland Fishery, and look at boating locations, river locations, and now we have through the work of Rockbridge Outdoors, we've got a downloadable PDF map of all the put-ins and takeouts with some hazards on the water, rapids listed, do a float down the river.
Both the James and Maury are scenic river trails now.
Okay.
Buffalo Creek is even navigable now, officially.
Yeah.
So those, and to your point, being able to access that information through a state agency that gives you all the information that you need if you're going to get on the water is so helpful.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing it into the future too, because again, most people will have their phones on them, whether to take pictures or whatever. But as long as you've got a little bit of Wi-Fi, you can get what you need.
Right, and those put-ins used to be you would have to know somebody. Like, hey, where do you want to paddle? I want to paddle on the river, and you would look at one of the guides from 1996 on printed guide from the government, from the DCR, and that doesn't exist anymore. Those put-ins aren't viable anymore, and so you'd have to know somebody. Oh, James paddles a lot. Let's ask him. And
but if I'm from out of town, I don't know James.
You don't know, right? And so now we're Rockbridge Outdoors is really we've caught Rockbridge County up to Google it.
Yeah.
And that PDF would come up, right?
Yeah.
And then you could go and recreate, and that's the point. What I think Rockbridge County is now poised to do is to have more outfitters. If you wanted to come paddle, you don't have boats. That's what we're I don't want to say lacking, because there are a few rental programs. We've got a couple of kayak companies that are doing really well. They would love more business, right? But we don't have that guide. In fishing, in hunting, we have wonderful guides online and on the Rockbridge Outdoors website. Phenomenal listing of all the guides, but we're missing some liveries in a way. John and Dan Mays did a wonderful job with Twin River Outfitters in Buchanan. Phenomenal company, wonderfully run, easy. It's perfect. It's almost like we would need a small one of those up there. And as soon as I say that, I think, oh no, now it's going to be busy on the river.
Somebody's going to bring their $1 million idea to you.
Yeah.
Well, and so earlier you had mentioned accessibility, and so before we get off of our hidden gems and things, if you have suggestions for those who have accessibility issues that just want to know where to go, would you have any recommendations where to start? Again, maybe depending on skill level or experience, but.
Well, downtown in Lexington, there's Jordan's Point Park, which is sort of the end of VMI, where actually our wastewater treatment facility used to be a long time ago. But when that was removed, it was turned into a park through the city and an improvement plan that we funded to determine, what sort of improvements can we make to this park. Part of it is ADA accessibility, and we've made some strides in paving some of the trails that go down to the point where it wasn't quite as accessible before. You could go to the park, but it was really hard to get around.
Right.
I'd say, I can't confirm this, but I'd say the chassis is pretty. That grade is pretty easy for someone that might have to use a chair to get around on.
Yeah. That's a great question. I think we're lacking in a lot of that. I'll be frank, and honest, but it's certainly on lists of how do we.
Sure, you're not the only organization that has to think about those challenges too in terms of outdoors. That's really tough.
And at the risk of jumping back to Natural Bridge State Park,
as you do,
we just last fall instituted and I can't remember. It's called Right Here, and it's for vision impaired folks that will get messaging through their phone, depending on where they are in the park, that tell them where they're at, describes the scenery where they are, and helps them navigate with some assistance to other parts of the park. And that was actually instituted or suggested by, I think it was a gentleman from Lynchburg who was visiting the park and said, you guys need to look into this. And we're the only state park in Virginia that's currently using this technology to help vision
I love
impaired
that
folks.
You heard that concern and you addressed it and made sure that it was accessible.
Yeah.
Right. Which, I mean, in describing all the neat things we have and me saying we're lacking in ADA, truly accessible outdoor recreation activities for folks who are not as mobile, right? I should immediately plug, send us the feedback. Right,
yes.
Rockbridge County wants that because we're looking at our area with this lens, and if somebody would come, if XYZ, we want that information. And as we're fundraising and working with budgets and things like that, it'll be put on a list. But we welcome that feedback for
well,
sure.
I mean, I love the transparency. I love the open attitude. I love the welcoming. Please tell us what we're missing so that we can accommodate for you. I think that's really important. And it makes you an even more inviting community because you're welcoming to all and you're trying to figure out how to make it work for everybody. So
Sure.
I think that's great.
And Chuck and I are just, two folks involved,
Right. Many, it sounds like. Oh my gosh.
and
Committees
so,
and subcommittees.
I would guess that if other people, were here, they might be talking about, we hit the general
of course.
top items, but maybe they would be emphasizing a few other things. And so if we did miss anything,
well, they can yell at you later.
Go to the
We'll
website.
just have to bring you back. That's okay. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah, sure.
So let's talk about, we talked about the Kiln Theater, which is just a really amazing opportunity, but other outdoor events or festivals. And again, I know, so we're recording this episode in late February, but we're talking about all sorts of evergreen information that can be applied all year long. So in thinking about, again, events or activities, seasonal things, we talked a little bit about the seasons, but anything that you think visitors should have, just they got to know about. Or locals, maybe they didn't realize it's right there in their backyard.
Oh, sure. I think hands down Glenmorey Park in BV with multiple conventions, fiddler conventions, mountain bluegrass, mountain music. Those festivals, there are more of them than I can. There's not too many, but it's not just like there's one per year. So that's a big, long-running tradition in BV at Glenmorey Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that something new when you moved here? Bluegrass?
Bluegrass?
Yeah, not bluegrass as a genre, but
from New Mexico.
You got here and you were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd never had moonshine
you're
either.
in Appalachia now, but
I called my brother, said, man, I heard some banjos and I had moonshine. He was like, all right.
You're in the hills now, my friend. No, but that's our culture. That's what we love. We're very proud of that. So I'm glad we were able to introduce you to that wonderful genre.
Over the 4th of July holiday, we have balloons over Rockbridge, which is
iconic.
Yeah.
If you've never done a balloon, it's unforgettable.
To get in the balloon?
It is cool. Yeah, you get to ride up.
Well, if the weather's working out, okay.
Sure,
they
of
have
course.
tethered rides up and down, but we took
I'll leave my husband on the ground, but I'll do it.
At first 20 or 30 feet is a little, and then like, well.
I'm up here now.
Yeah, what am I going to do? So let's look around. And you can see, you get a perspective of the area that you will never get otherwise.
Yeah.
So that in that regard, it's unforgettable. It's a great fundraiser.
And it's just beautiful to look at from the ground, you know, like it's just incredible. I mean, we've shown a lot of those pictures both in the Roanoke and Blue Ridge Country, and every time people are like, that's just the most amazing thing. It's iconic.
July 3rd, we have Freedom Food Festival, which is another fundraiser for local nonprofits.
Great.
Shuts downtown. We shut it off, and it's food and crafts and markets, and it's great.
We had local musician Sarah Jane McDonald play last year. We've had some other just world-class bluegrass guys come and play for that, and it's become a huge success in the 3 years that we've had it.
Well, it's still almost brand new, but like that's
almost,
great, yeah.
but it's just taken off. It's been awesome.
Excellent.
Your question about festivals and music made me think of now the area is getting to be better known for running events. We have the Chessie Trail Marathon and half marathon and 10K and 5K, which that's a really well attended event, as in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of runners, and it's a qualifier. It's now considered a qualifier for some of the larger events, Boston and New York, right? And it's flat and it's fast. It's a fast course, right?
Unlike the Blue Ridge Marathon, where you're like, just go up a hill for a long time. That's I'll take the flat land. That's for me.
Right.
Thanks.
We've got a big turkey day, turkey trot rather, during Thanksgiving, which is that family and friends, and that's a neat little event. And we've got the Nasty Nine Trail Race.
Okay, I'm glad you brought
in
that
September.
Well, the name sounds intimidating.
Right. At Brushy Hills, it's a fundraiser for multiple organizations and food banks, and both high schools, Rockbridge County High School and BV High School, for their cross country and track teams. And it's a 9-mile trail race or a 4-mile race. Yeah. And Nasty Nine, there's a hill or two, and it's really fun, but it's the events are well run, but they have small event feels.
Yeah.
Right. So that's good.
Community. That's what I'm hearing behind all of it, and that's really important. So that's great. Okay, so before we wrap up, talking about where listeners can go to learn more about Rockbridge Outdoors, so that they got to plan this trip. Long weekend, long week, short day, whatever they want to do. It sounds like there's something for every kind of opportunity there.
Yeah. I'd say that if you made the trip to Lexington and Rockbridge and Buena Vista in the region, if you couldn't find something to do, it's you probably.
It's you.
Well,
it's you.
It's your fault.
You're not looking hard enough, man.
Or you just didn't look hard enough. Rockbridgeoutdoors.com, which is sort of an affiliate of our tourism department, is a great resource. That's a good place to start. Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, Lexington.
Walkabout Outfitters, which is our local. There's Walkabout down here as well, and that's talk about a great story. It's a small shop that is regional now, and they have great suggestions as well.
Right, fantastic. Well, we'll make sure to list those on our website too. So for listeners who land on our webpage, we'll make sure to link that so that you can find it easily. Anything else you guys want to add before we say goodnight to our listeners and tell them to dream of all the amazing outdoor adventures they're going to have?
I would say, thank you to all the people who have sat in committee meetings and been part of subcommittees and emails back and forth, because we all have full-time jobs and not many of us do this professionally, right? And so it's a lot of effort, and Chuck and I we're the models on your podcast, right? But there's so many people behind the scenes and the folks who use the trails, and so I just want to thank all of them for the support and encouragement for us to come and do this, and obviously thank you for asking the questions. Wonderful questions.
So happy, but it sounds like a true labor of love, and I love seeing how far it's come and just how far you're going to keep going. Yeah. Any last words? Natural State Bridge Park.
Yeah, Natural Bridge State Park. It is a great asset. I don't know how much you travel. I know you travel a lot, but the best part, I think, of living in Rockbridge County is leaving, and then what makes it even better is coming back, and because getting to see so much of the rest of the country that there's something in the water in Rockbridge County that makes it as special and community based as it is.
Yeah, you're coming home.
Yeah, and you really gain an understanding and appreciation of what Rockbridge really does provide.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for being on the show. So appreciate your time. Cannot wait to get up there myself, and I don't know if I'll go caving or ballooning, but I can certainly do the level 1 easy stuff for sure, and then go enjoy a picnic on the Blue Ridge Parkway. I think that sounds perfect. Again, thank you so much for an incredible conversation.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Again, a huge thank you to James and Chuck for sharing their passion, knowledge, and their favorite outdoor experiences in Rockbridge County. Whether you're hiking through stunning trails, paddling along the rivers, or discovering those hidden gems that you still have yet to even discover sometimes, there's truly something for everyone in this gorgeous region. If you're ready to start planning your own adventure, be sure to check out Rockbridge Outdoors online at rockbridgeoutdoors.com. We'll be sure to list that on our website's podcast page, and follow them over on their social media pages for updates, events, and trip planning tips. And of course, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share with your fellow outdoors lovers and podcast listeners. We'll be back soon with more inspiring stories and expert insights, so stay tuned. And until next time, get outside and explore. Thanks for tuning in to From Print to Podcast, where print comes to life, one great story at a time.